Stop! You haven't subscribed to the channel yet. Subscribe now. We have new stories every day. Now, let's go. When everything changed overnight, as I sat at my desk, memories of the last 30 years with my wife flooded my mind, especially our honeymoon. I found myself reminiscing about the best moments of my life, like those unforgettable days in Florida with Jessica. Reflecting on that trip brings me a deep sense of nostalgia and gratitude. It was such a magical experience that it remains one of the most treasured memories in my heart. From the very beginning, it felt like we had left the worries of the world behind, entering a serene, peaceful space. Hand in hand, we strolled along Clearwater Beach with the warm waves gently lapping at our feet. The scent of jasmine filled the air, wrapping us in a sense of romance and calm. But it wasn't just the beautiful scenery that made that time so special. It was the experiences we shared. Hiking through lush forests and stumbling upon hidden waterfalls gave us an appreciation for the wonder of nature. As we stood there, marveling at the raw power and beauty around us, it felt like we were in sync with the world. Our cozy beachside cottage in Key West had the most stunning views of the sunsets. Every evening, the sky was a canvas of colors, and as we held each other close, we were filled with nothing but love and devotion. The nights were pure magic, starting with dinners under the stars on the beach, enjoying fresh seafood and local delights. But it was Jessica's gentle smile that made each moment unforgettable. That trip wasn't just a vacation. It was a celebration of our love, filled with memories that continue to live within me. Lost in thought, I was suddenly interrupted by my secretary. She smiled, noticing my good mood, and joked, "Did you win the lottery or something?" I laughed and explained that my wife had been incredibly sweet lately, making me feel appreciated in ways I hadn't felt in years. It almost felt like we were on a second honeymoon, and for the first time in ages, I found myself constantly thinking about her. Over the past 2 weeks, I've called Jessica several times a day just to hear her voice, feeling like a giddy teenager again. And I didn't mind at all. I was happy, and I didn't want that feeling to end. Jessica and I have had a strong marriage, but after 3 decades, things can fall into a routine. Lately, though, she's been more affectionate, craving closeness almost every night, and even bringing back some old habits we had when we were younger. I didn't question this newfound surge in affection, believing it was just a beautiful renewal of our bond. Filled with excitement, I left work early, planning a romantic surprise for her. I bought 2 dozen roses, wrote a heartfelt note, and grabbed her favorite wine along with a box of chocolate-covered strawberries. Tonight, I was going to tell her how much I loved her and surprise her with the 7-day cruise I had secretly booked for us. With a smile, I pulled into the garage, feeling eager to see her. I climbed the stairs to the kitchen, expecting to find Jessica there, but instead, I was greeted by our daughter, Sarah, who was sitting at the table. I kissed her on the forehead and asked, "Hey, sweetie, where's your mom?" Just a couple of weeks ago, they had a serious conversation. "Sarah, I'm not sure about this," Jessica had confessed. "I love your dad deeply, and I'm worried that going through with this will hurt him." "Mom, Dad loves you, and he'll understand," Sarah had reassured her. "You said yourself that you need something different, something more than you've been getting. Dad's not getting any younger, but he'll understand your needs and let you have this one experience." "Sarah, I don't think I can stand in front of your father and tell them I'm going out with another man. It's just, I can't do it," Jessica had insisted. "Then let me handle it," Sarah had offered. "Alex is going to meet you at the restaurant at 7 p.m., and you'll be ready to leave by 6 when Dad gets home. I'll be here to explain everything to him. You'll get the night you've been longing for." Yes, I agreed to the date, Jessica had admitted, but I'm having second thoughts. It feels wrong. How can I face your father after agreeing to go out with another man? Well, Sarah had suggested you could keep it from him during these 2 weeks. Show him just how much you love him. Let him see there's nothing to worry about, and when I explain it all, he'll understand that this isn't about love. It's about having a little fun and making a new friend. Reach out to him, make him feel like the man you fell in love with. And when I tell him what's going on, he'll welcome you back with open arms. Trust me, Mom. Dad loves you and has always given you what you wanted. This will be no different." "You think so?" Jessica had asked, still uncertain. "Maybe you're right. After all, it's just one night. It doesn't mean I'm leaving your father. Having a bit of fun 30 years later shouldn't be a big deal. I'll show him just how much he means to me every night until the date, and when I get back, I'll do everything I can to make him the happiest man alive. Jessica had resolved. I just need to make him feel loved and appreciated. He's a really great guy, and this experience will be one of a kind for you, Sarah reassured her mother. Now, I've got to head home and cook dinner for Adam. Thanks, sweetie, and say hi to Adam for me. When are you two finally going to give us grandkids? Jessica teased. Soon. We've already talked about it, and we're planning to start trying in a few months, Sarah replied before heading out the door. Jessica sat alone in the art studio that I had built for her in the backyard, staring at her latest project. Recently, her creativity had been stifled as the thought of being with another man weighed heavily on her. The guilt was blocking her artistic flow until she recalled Sarah's words. Suddenly, her brush moved effortlessly across the canvas, bringing vibrant colors and emotion to life. The peace of mind made her believe she was doing the right thing, convinced that I would ultimately understand. Sitting there, lost in her thoughts, she muttered to herself, Floyd might be upset at first, but I know I can make him understand. I truly love him. He's been such a wonderful husband and father. I'll be the best wife to him and show him just how much he means to me. On the first night of her plan to reignite the spark in our marriage, she slipped into my favorite baby doll nightgown right after her shower. She took extra care with her hair and makeup, and when I walked through the door, she greeted me in heels and that nightgown, whisking me off to the bedroom. She surprised me with something we hadn't shared in a long time, and my beaming smile filled her with warmth. Jessica, that was the best homecoming I've had in years. What brought this on? I asked, my eyes gleaming. I just wanted to show you how much I love you, how special you are, she responded, smiling up at me. Did you enjoy it? I did. It's been way too long. I forgot how much I missed this, I replied, pulling her back onto the bed for more passionate kisses. That night was the most intimate we had been in years, and for a moment, she started second-guessing her plans with Alex. Over the next few weeks, I seemed like a new man, happier, more affectionate, and much more engaging. It was like we had rediscovered each other, and she found herself feeling more content than she had in years. She even confided in Sarah about reconsidering her date with Alex. I don't know, honey. Maybe I don't need this experience after all. Your dad and I have found our spark again. That's great, Mom, Sarah responded. But maybe hold off on canceling just yet. See how the next couple of weeks go. Enjoy each other, and if things stay good, you can always cancel at the last minute. I'm sure Alex will understand. But just remember, this opportunity might not come around again. Okay, maybe you're right, Jessica conceded. Tell me more about Alex. I know he's your friend's dad, but remind me about his situation. Sure, Sarah began. When his wife Susan was diagnosed with a brain tumor, Alex dedicated himself to her until she passed. He became a recluse afterward, battling depression and loneliness. He's had a tough time even thinking about dating again, but he's just been so lost without Susan. As I listened to Sarah explain his story, something clicked in Jessica's mind. I think I might have a solution for both of you, Sarah continued. I told him about how much you love Dad, but how you've been wanting to reignite things in your relationship. We talked about going on a date, not for some long-term romance, but to explore friendship and maybe more without you having to abandon Dad. When he saw your picture, his whole face lit up. He smiled and asked, Do I really have a chance to take her out? I told him absolutely. Once Mom hears about you and sees your photo, she won't turn down this opportunity. He did ask, though, what about your dad? Will he be okay with her going out with me, considering she's his wife? And I told him, trust me, Dad would do anything to make Mom happy. You two need each other right now, and I think you could be great friends. Leave the rest to me. Sarah's words stuck with Jessica, and the following day Alex gave her a call. After a lovely chat, he asked if she'd like to join him for dinner and spend the evening together. His compliments about her photo made her feel like a schoolgirl again, butterflies and all. The thought of something new excited her, and they both eagerly agreed to meet. Although he offered to pick her up, she insisted on meeting him at the restaurant instead. Over the next few days, their texts became more playful, and the anticipation for their date grew. As the night approached, Her texts with Alex could have easily failed any loyalty test, but she was caught up in the excitement. She couldn't stop thinking about the date, even though thoughts of me never left her mind. Still, she poured even more energy into our nights together. I couldn't stop smiling while she secretly harbored this overwhelming desire for closeness, a kind of fulfillment that went beyond her wildest dreams. I cherished Sarah. She had grown into such a beautiful woman, someone I was incredibly proud of. I regretted not spending more time with her while she was growing up, but I did my best to provide for her and tried to be there when I could. When I saw her, I greeted her with a smile that held a touch of embarrassment. "Sweetheart, what brings you here? And where's your mom?" I asked, setting down the 24 roses, a bottle of wine, and the box of chocolates on the table. "I've got a special surprise planned for her tonight, and I can't wait to see her reaction." Reaching into my jacket pocket, I pulled out the travel itinerary and tickets for a week-long cruise. "I'm taking your mom on a 7-day trip aboard the new yacht, Serenity. I'm so excited to see her joy when she finds out. But don't say a word, okay? I want it to be a surprise." The word daddy always tugged at my heartstrings, bringing back memories of her as a little girl curled up in my lap. But something was off this time. I could see tears forming in her eyes, and she looked like she was struggling to speak. "Dad, we need to talk," she finally said, a tear escaping down her cheek. Seeing the concern in my eyes, she urged me to sit down, and I complied, bracing myself for what I sensed was bad news. "What's wrong? Is everything okay with your mom?" I asked, my heart racing. "Mom's fine, but there's something you need to know," Sarah began, her voice trembling. After a long pause, she continued, "Dad, you know how much Mom loves you, and she's been talking about how great things have been between you two lately, right?" "Yeah, and I love her too. That's why I'm doing all of this." My stomach tightened as her tears flowed freely, and I could feel something terrible was coming. "I'm really sorry, Daddy," she said, the words hitting me like a freight train. "But Mom, she went on a date." I sat there in stunned silence, processing the words but not fully understanding their weight. Her tears flowed as my mind struggled to connect the dots, and anger began to bubble up inside me. "Sarah, what are you saying? Where is your mother?" I demanded, my voice rising. She flinched at my tone, clearly scared by the intensity of my reaction. "Dad, please listen," she pleaded. "Mom loves you, but she's out with someone else tonight, and she won't be home until tomorrow. She didn't want to tell you herself because she didn't want to hurt you. It's just for one night, and she'll come back tomorrow." I blinked in disbelief, my mind rejecting the idea. "What? This has to be some kind of joke. Your mother would never betray me like this. We've been so happy lately. I just don't believe it." "Dad, I know it's hard to hear," Sarah reasoned, her voice soft. "But after 30 years of marriage, Mom felt like she needed something new. It's just one night, and she'll love you even more for understanding." I stared at her, trying to make sense of what she was saying. "Sarah, why are you involved in this? This is between your mother and me. You shouldn't be in the middle of it. How did she drag you into this?" "Dad, you know Mom and I are close. We talk about everything," Sarah explained, her voice cracking. "She confided in me that things had slowed down between you two, and she felt neglected. My friend's dad lost his wife a few years ago, and he was so lonely. I thought they could help each other, so I introduced them." I shot out of my chair, knocking it over. "Are you telling me you set your mother up on a date with your friend's father? Is this real? Did you really do this?" Sarah cowered under the weight of my anger as I towered over her, pacing the room in disbelief. "Answer me, Sarah. My wife, your mother, is out with your friend's dad because of you? How could you do this to me?" "I'm sorry, Daddy. I really am," she said, her voice barely a whisper. "It sounds bad when you put it that way, but I did it out of love for both of you and for him." "Love? Love for them? What about me? Do I mean nothing to you? Am I just some fool you can toss aside while you play matchmaker? Where is she, Sarah? Where is your mother? And what did you mean when you said she won't be home until tomorrow?" "Dad, they went to a restaurant, but I don't know which one," Sarah answered, her voice shaking. "And yes, they're spending the night together, but it's just this one time. I swear she'll be back tomorrow, and she only loves you. All she's been saying for the last 2 weeks is how much she loves you." I stood there, disbelief and anger mixing in my chest. So all this time, I thought her affection was genuine, but was it just to ease her guilt? Well, Sarah, this won't end the way you or your mother think it will. I promise you that. Tears streamed down her face as she pleaded with me. It's not like that, Dad. She never pretended to love you. She's been doing everything she can to show you how much she cares. Can't you give her just this one night? You've had 30 great years together. She loves you so much and can't imagine life without you. Please don't throw it all away. No, Sarah, I replied coldly. That ship sailed the moment your mother agreed to go out with another man. Who is this guy anyway? He's my friend Mary's dad. He's really nice, and I think you two would get along if you met, she said, trying to calm me down. Oh, really? You think we'd be great buddies, huh? Maybe we can start hanging out, and I can offer him your mom on the weekends. Is that it? Maybe we can even be drinking buddies while I watch and date my wife. Sarah sank into her chair, realizing her plan had unraveled before her eyes. She had never seen me this angry before, and my sarcasm cut deep. After pacing the room a bit longer, I finally regained some control over my emotions. Listen carefully, Sarah, I said, my voice filled with venom. I want you to leave now. I need to be alone to process what you and your mother have done to me. Don't call me. Don't write. Don't try to reach me. You are no longer my daughter. You're dead to me. Do you understand? I'm not your father anymore. Dad, no. Please don't say that. I love you, and I want to stay here with you tonight. Mom and I planned for me to stay so you wouldn't be alone. Please don't send me away, she sobbed, her face buried in her hands. Leave, Sarah, I said coldly. Your level of disrespect makes me question whether you ever truly respected me as your father. You're your mother's daughter through and through. I worked hard for years to give you and her a better life, and this is how you repay me? Get out. I have no daughter now. Through her tears, she pleaded, Dad, I love you. Don't say this. Just wait for Mom to explain everything tomorrow. You've had 30 wonderful years together. She might have one thing, or two, or 1,000, but she'll never have me again, I said bitterly. Forgiveness is out of the question. Everyone involved will pay, including the man who took your mother out. Now leave. Tears streamed down her face as she fled the house, feeling a pain she had never experienced before. She never expected me to react this way, and as she ran, she realized she might have made a terrible mistake by helping her mother with this plan. She had hoped I would understand, but my fury left no room for hope. As soon as Sarah left, I dialed Jessica's number, but it went straight to voicemail. I left message after message, begging her to come home, but there was no response. By 2 a.m., I realized she wasn't coming back that night. Exhausted from the emotional strain, I sat there staring blankly at the TV, though I barely registered what was on. I thought about our 3 decades of marriage, the birth of our daughter, the celebrations, and all the moments that now seemed meaningless. How could she do this to me after all those years? Gazing out the window, I saw the art studio I had built for Jessica 2 decades ago. It was her sanctuary filled with her accomplishments, her paintings and sculptures, and suddenly the anger returned with newfound resolve. I jumped off the couch. Over the next few hours, I made countless trips to our bedroom, gathering all of her belongings, her shoes, her dresses, her jewelry, and tossing them into the studio. I even gathered all the photo albums, including the ones from our wedding, and piled them up. Then it hit me, her wedding gown, the baby clothes, all those sentimental things in the attic. I hauled them down too, adding them to the growing heap. By the time I was done, the pile of her belongings was enormous. At 5:30 a.m., I grabbed a canister of gasoline from the garage and marched out to the studio. But I decided to give her until 6 o'clock to come home, to explain herself, to maybe try to save what was left. If she didn't return by then, everything would go up in flames. I spent the next few minutes transferring funds, canceling our joint accounts, and packing a few bags. If she didn't show up by 6 o'clock, I would have left by 6:05. My hope had burned out, just like my trust in her. I poured gasoline all over the pile of belongings in the studio, pausing for just a moment, feeling the weight of my actions. With a deep breath and a heavy heart, I struck the match and watched as the flames roared to life, quickly consuming everything Jessica held dear. The fire spread rapidly, its orange glow visible from the street. Before I even left, driving away, a wave of sorrow hit me hard. Tears streamed down my face as I realized that, just like the studio, my once happy marriage had gone up in flames. What I didn't expect was how the fire jumped from the studio to the back porch, igniting it as well. Thankfully, the firefighters arrived quickly and managed to contain the blaze before it reached the house, though the damage was extensive. The house itself had suffered heavy smoke damage, making it uninhabitable until repairs could be made. Shaken, I checked into a motel about 90 miles away, paid in cash to avoid leaving a trace in case the authorities came looking for me. My adrenaline kept me wide awake, even as I finally collapsed onto the bed after turning off my phone. Sleep took over, and I didn't wake until noon the next day. When I turned my phone back on, it exploded with notifications, dozens of missed calls and texts from Sarah, Jessica, and even the sheriff. Meanwhile, at the restaurant, Jessica stepped out of the Uber, meeting Alex at the reception desk. Nervous but excited, she noticed how he smiled at her little black dress, the sheer tights, and the high heels. His gaze lingered on her neckline, accentuated by the glimpse of a black bra. Earlier that day, Jessica had spent hours at the salon making sure her hair and makeup were flawless. Tonight, she was determined to make this one-time encounter unforgettable. Seeing Alex's reaction filled her with confidence. She greeted him with a soft kiss, and they moved to the bar where he couldn't take his eyes off her. Jessica felt a rush of excitement, something she hadn't felt in years, and decided to silence her phone to fully enjoy the evening without distractions. The chemistry between them was undeniable. They flirted like old friends, something she hadn't done with me in a long time. By the time they finished their second drink, the hostess announced their table was ready, and they moved to their seats. The conversation flowed easily, and Jessica found herself enjoying every moment. When Alex asked if she was still up for spending the night together, Jessica playfully slipped off her heels and ran her foot up his leg, teasing him. He smiled and declared it was time to leave. Hand in hand, they made their way to his pre-booked hotel room. As the elevator ascended to the 14th floor, reality hit Jessica for a brief second. Thoughts of me flashed through her mind. Sensing her hesitation, Alex pulled her close and kissed her passionately. That kiss pushed all thoughts of her husband out of her head. Tonight, she was Alex's. Once inside the room, he wasted no time unzipping her dress and letting it fall to the floor. His touch sent shivers down her spine. Time seemed to stand still as the night unfolded, filled with sensuality and tenderness. Jessica found herself completely lost in the moment, surrendering to the experience. Later, when Alex confessed his attraction to her, she felt a pang of guilt but quickly pushed it aside. This night was about them. They made love again 4 more times throughout the night and once more in the morning. It was the most intense physical experience Jessica had ever had, and she felt a rush of pride for allowing herself this indulgence. The next morning, bathed in sunlight, Alex held her close. "Jessica, you're an extraordinary woman," he said softly. "I believe I'm falling in love with you. Can we see each other again?" Jessica felt her heart race. "Alex," she started delicately, "last night was amazing, and you're a wonderful man. But I'm married, and I can't do this again. It was a one-time thing. Please think about it before you say no." Alex urged, "Your husband doesn't seem to mind if you let this continue. I know I can make you happy." "All right, I'll think about it," Jessica said softly, giving him one last deep kiss. As much as she enjoyed being with Alex, her heart belonged to me, and she hoped I could forgive her for what she had done. After breakfast, Alex drove Jessica home. She switched on her phone for the first time since the night before and was overwhelmed by the number of missed calls and texts. Seeing my messages, a wave of guilt washed over her. She had caused me so much pain, and now she had to face the consequences. As Alex pulled into her neighborhood, Jessica's heart sank when she spotted fire trucks and police cars outside her house. Though the front of the house seemed intact, panic gripped her. What had happened? "Mom, where are you?" Sarah's voice came through the phone as soon as Jessica answered. "I'm almost home, sweetie. What's going on?" "There was a fire at the house. We've been trying to reach you all night, but your phone was off. Dad's missing. Mom, no one knows where he is." Panic flooded Jessica's mind. "I'll be home in a minute. I'll call you back." As Alex pulled into her street, Jessica saw the firefighters gathered near the house. She hurried over, a knot tightening in her stomach. "Are you the homeowner?" One of the firefighters asked as curious neighbors watched her arrive with Alex, an unfamiliar man. "Yes, yes, I'm Jessica Harper," she replied, her heart pounding. "Well, Mrs. Harper, we managed to save most of the house. Only the back porch was damaged, but you won't be able to stay here until the smoke damage is cleaned up. Unfortunately, the studio at the back couldn't be saved." Jessica's knees buckled, and Alex caught her just in time, guiding her to sit down on the curb. "Is everything in the studio gone?" Jessica asked, her voice trembling. "I'm afraid so. All that's left are charred remains," the firefighter said gently. "We're still investigating the cause of the fire, but a police detective would like to speak with you." Jessica stood up shakily, heading toward the back of the house, where she was met by Sergeant Bennett. "Mrs. Harper, do you have any idea what might have caused the fire?" he asked. "No," Jessica replied weakly. "I wasn't home last night." "Are you her husband?" the surgeon asked, turning to Alex. "No, just a friend," Alex answered, his face reddening as the surgeon raised an eyebrow. "Do you know where your husband is?" the surgeon pressed. "I don't," Jessica admitted. "I haven't spoken to him." "And where were you last night?" the surgeon asked, his tone growing more serious. "I was with Alex at the Hilton downtown," she answered quietly, shame creeping into her voice. She could feel the weight of judgment in the surgeon's eyes as she stood amidst the wreckage of her life. She had just admitted to the detective that she didn't spend the night with her husband, and now he was missing too. The detective had more questions. "Mrs. Harper, are you and your husband separated? Do you have any idea where he was last night?" "No, we're happily married," she insisted, though the words felt ridiculous after she'd just confessed to spending the night with another man. "When you do hear from him, please give him my contact information," the detective instructed, handing her his card. A wave of emotions hit her, anger and fear. Anger at the destruction of her sanctuary and all her hard work now lost in flame. Fear of my rage and what it might mean for our marriage. She had to find me, to explain herself. She called Sarah. "Sarah, have you heard from your dad?" "No, I haven't spoken to him since last night." "Mom, why didn't you stay with him like we planned?" "He kicked me out and disowned me," she revealed, her voice breaking. Those words sent a chill down Jessica's spine. I had never said anything like that before. If I really did disown her, it was worse than she could have imagined. When she entered the house, the smell of smoke hit her immediately, and the walls were stained with soot. Our cozy home was now a disaster, uninhabitable until repairs could be made. She went to the bedroom to gather some clothes, but when she opened the closet, she froze. All her things, clothes, shoes, jewelry, were gone. Her heart pounded as she rushed to her nightstand to find her wedding rings, but they weren't there. Panic set in. If I saw the rings missing, I must have assumed the worst. She scoured the house, looking for any sign of her belongings, but they had all been cleared out. A horrifying realization hit her. I had destroyed everything. She ran to the studio, hoping against hope that some of her things had survived. Among the debris, she found photo frames and fragments of clothes. It was clear I had obliterated everything, severing her from my life in one devastating blow. In tears, she called Sarah again, telling her what had happened. She didn't know where to go. Alex had offered her a place to stay, but she didn't want to see him. She needed to be alone. "I've lost your father," she sobbed into the phone. "Mom, don't say that," Sarah pleaded. "Dad loves you." "I know he does. He burned everything, Sarah. My clothes, my paintings, the studio. Everything's gone. I hurt him, and I don't blame him. What I did is unforgivable. I should have talked to him instead of going on that date." "Mom, don't blame yourself. You can stay with us until the house is fixed. We'll buy you new clothes and get you settled tonight," Sarah offered. "But all my work, everything I've built for 20 years, is gone," she lamented, her tears drawing the attention of some neighbors passing by. Just then, her phone rang. It was me. Barely able to breathe, she answered. "Floyd, is that you?" "Hi, Jessica." "Floyd, please, where are you?" "Come home. We need to talk," she begged. "No, Jessica, I know everything. From your daughter." "Yes, your daughter, not mine. You're both dead to me." This may be the last time we talk. No, Floyd, please don't say that. I love you. The studio. It's gone. Did you do this? Jessica, you did this, not me. Maybe I didn't physically start the fire, but your betrayal is what burned everything to the ground. When I saw your wedding rings left behind and realized you gave yourself to someone else, you died to me. What you did is unforgivable. Floyd, no. Please, we've had 30 wonderful years together. Can't we talk and work this out? No, Jessica. You planned to betray me. You gave me 2 weeks of love to ease your guilt, and then cheated with our daughter's help. There's no way to accept or forgive such treachery. Floyd, don't do this. I love you, she pleaded. This is over. Contact my lawyer for anything further. Goodbye, Jessica. Floyd, wait. Floyd. She screamed into the phone, but I was already gone. She collapsed onto the ground, feeling like her entire world had been ripped away. Sarah arrived just as she was calling me again, tears streaming down her face as they embraced, mourning the loss of everything they held dear. They couldn't stay in the wreckage of their home, so they headed to Sarah's house. When they got there, Sarah told her husband, Mike, everything. He was horrified by what he heard. Sarah, you arranged a date for your mother with another man, and you knew your dad would be alone. How could you do that to him? He was a good man, and you've shattered him. I'm shocked and disappointed. We need to talk about ourselves now. Having children is on hold until I figure out where your values lie, because I don't share them. Sarah was taken aback by Mike's anger. She hadn't expected him to react so harshly, but deep down, she knew the real issue wasn't just their future. It was the collapse of her parents' marriage, her father's disappearance, and her mother's shattered happiness. Everything was falling apart because of one night. 5 days later, I returned to the house to assess the damage. I chose not to file an insurance claim to avoid further costs. I contacted my lawyer, making it clear that the house was mine, not part of the settlement. Jessica would get half of our savings, but no alimony. When I came home, a neighbor who knew Sarah from school called her, and she rushed over to the house. She found me standing in the bedroom, inspecting the damage. She ran to me, embracing me tightly. Daddy, I'm so sorry. Please forgive us. We love you. Sarah, I told you not to speak to me again. I can't forgive either of you. No, you have to forgive me. I'm your daughter. You love me. I don't have a daughter anymore, just a woman who broke my heart. Now leave me alone. Dad, Ma needs you. She's miserable. She misses you terribly. Please come over and talk to her. I will never speak to her again. Our marriage ended the moment she went on that date and left her wedding rings behind. You can both contact me through my lawyer. Are you really going to end 30 years of marriage? Sarah asked, her voice trembling. No. Your mother ended it when she chose another man over me. You both destroyed my happiness, and I won't forgive or forget. Now get out, I said coldly. Sarah left in tears, devastated by my words. She knew they would leave scars that no amount of time could heal. The next day, Jessica received divorce papers. She was overwhelmed, finally realizing her marriage had ended because of her infidelity. She tried to reconcile, sought counseling, and begged me to talk, but I stayed silent. Mike eventually reached out to me to apologize for Sarah's involvement in the affair, but the damage was done. Mike reconsidered having children with Sarah, now uncertain about her loyalty and values. They went into couples counseling, trying to salvage their marriage. As for Jessica, she hoped to return to our rebuilt house, but the divorce decree awarded it to me. She received half of our savings and no alimony. Jessica was forced to find a job, something she hadn't done in 30 years. She moved from Sarah's apartment to a small one-room flat near the city, taking a job at a small art gallery to make ends meet. Her once comfortable life was gone, along with the marriage she had taken for granted, all for one thrilling night. No amount of tears could wash away the regret and pain of that one affair. The man she had loved for 3 decades, the man who had built a life with her, was gone. Sarah spiraled into a deep depression after our divorce. She sought solace in therapy, trying to save her crumbling marriage. Months later, the house was fully restored, and I continued to make the court-mandated payments. Then, without warning, I sold the house. After the sale, Jessica went to see me, desperate for reconciliation and forgiveness. When she rang the doorbell, a young couple opened the door. Hello, how can we help you? The woman asked. I'm looking for Floyd Harper. Is he here? Oh, you mean the nice man who sold us the house? No, he mentioned he was leaving the country for a fresh start. He was incredibly kind. Are you Jessica, by any chance? Yes, I am, Jessica replied, her voice trembling. He left an envelope for you. He said to give it to you if you ever came by. Thank you, Jessica whispered, her heart sinking. Enjoy your new home. Jessica sat in her car, tears streaming down her face, realizing she would never see me again. The love she had so recklessly discarded was now truly gone. Returning to her small apartment, she sat on her bed, her hands shaking as she opened the letter. Jessica, 30 remarkable years. I will forever cherish the beautiful life we shared. You were my first and only love, and I regret deeply that I couldn't be the husband you needed. If I had known you needed more, I would have moved mountains for you, but you chose to walk this path alone, and so our marriage ends the same way, alone. Those 2 wonderful weeks before your betrayal, I actually believe you had rekindled your love for me. They were the happiest weeks of our entire marriage. Learning from Sarah that you used those days to distract me from what was really happening shattered me. That night, I came home eager to surprise you with 2 dozen roses, your favorite chocolates, and a special bottle of wine. I had planned to surprise you with a week-long yacht cruise to celebrate our love, but discovering that your affection was just a cover for your affair left me utterly humiliated. Congratulations, Jessica. You've destroyed me and our marriage. I can't stay in this city any longer. I've resigned from my job and started a new life in another country. Don't bother looking for me. I have no desire to speak to you or our daughter again. This chapter of my life is closed, and I am beginning a new one without either of you. It will take me years to heal from the pain you inflicted, but I will recover without you. I hope that night was worth everything we had together. I suspect it was. You and Sarah will have plenty to talk about. Have a happy life, and please forget me as I already have. Floyd. Jessica thought she had no tears left, but after reading my letter, she cried uncontrollably. She curled up on the bed, overwhelmed by the regret and sadness that had replaced the excitement and memories of her night with Alex. Now 52 and alone, she saw nothing but a bleak future ahead. One unselfish night had cost her everything. Meanwhile, I had confronted Alex late one night before I left for Costa Rica. Showing up unannounced, I pushed my way into Alex's home. I'm Floyd Harper, Jessica's husband. You stole her from me. Alex tried to explain, but I was in no mood to hear excuses. The anger and pain I'd been harboring for weeks exploded in a matter of minutes. I wielded a crowbar and left Alex broken and bruised. As I walked away, I warned, take my advice. Messing with a married woman is bad for your health. By the time Alex reached the ER and reported the assault, I was already boarding a flight to Costa Rica, far beyond the reach of U.S. law. Without extradition for assault charges, I was free. Alex spent weeks in the hospital and months in physical therapy, adjusting to his new life. His reconstructed knees and the 25 stitches on his face served as permanent reminders of that fateful night with a married woman. Hearing about Alex's assault, Jessica and Sarah were devastated. The guilt from knowing they had caused my anguish only deepened their pain. They realized too late the far-reaching consequences of their actions. Their naive belief that granting Jessica one night would preserve their happy family had destroyed everything. For Sarah, the loss of 6 months after that fateful night, I found myself on a beach in Costa Rica, sipping a cold beer outside my new apartment. I reflected on everything that had happened and realized something important. Divorce is natural. People grow apart, and moving on is acceptable. What's not acceptable is staying in a relationship where you are neither valued nor cherished. This would never be my reality again.